But we don't have time to talk about the show just yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
Because it's time to talk about Blue Beetle.
The Saviour of DC.
Oh boy. I'm gonna start with the aggressive hot take.
Oh, I like it.
If you left this film and didn't at least think it was okay, superhero films aren't for you. You bought into the hype of Marvel when the entire world was in on it, and you convinced yourself you like superhero media. If you went to Blue Beetle and didn't like it, it's not that all the superhero films are bad at the minute, blah, blah, blah. You just aren't a superhero film kind of guy. And that's absolutely fine. Not everyone can be, not everyone needs to be. But this is now my litmus test for if someone just got bought into the hype of peak Marvel versus an actual superhero content fan.
Yeah. I think that's actually fairly valid.
I think it's the perfect litmus test.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's a lot there for people who aren't superhero fans. But if you are a superhero fan, you're just feasting.
Oh yeah, that was like prime superhero film. And it didn't feel like it messed up in any place.
No.
And those, like you say, I think anyone that walked away from that was like, oh, this is boring. DC's rubbish now. I should have stayed with Henry Cavill and all that. Like, nah, you were just in on the hype of Marvel and like the actors that were in DC. Like, you weren't in it for the long run.
Exactly that. I think top to bottom, the casting of this film was really good. Everyone played their character superbly.
Yes.
The art style was really nice.
Yep,
the practical effects touched up with CGI worked really well. There's a couple of spotty scenes where you can tell it was leaning a bit on the CGI and it just wasn't quite up to scratch. But compared to some other superhero projects that have come out recently, I don't think anything abhorrent. I think overall it absolutely holds up.
I mean, there was no VFX. Like, let's think about Flash. There was moments in Flash where we're like, the VFX, although done well, style-wise, really pulled us out of it. There was nothing in this where I was like, oh, that looked weird.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, they nailed it there.
And we also got one of my kind of favourite styles of bad guy. You've got the big bad who's the muscle, who you're like, they're actually kind of a badass in Carapax.
Yeah.
And then you have the big bad who you literally wouldn't piss on if they're on fire in Vanessa.
Yes.
And they did them both so perfectly because they didn't try and make them more complicated than they needed to be. Carapax is obviously different to our character profile we did last week or 2 weeks ago. He wasn't an archaeologist who went wrong. He was a soldier who we find out by the end of the film was a child soldier who was then experimented on and turned into this monster and didn't know anything else. And then you have Vanessa, who is the actual monster. You know what it is? Their entire arc, them two, is Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. It's that.
That's what that story is.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like you said, they both played their part as they needed to. And we got to see, in a way, that what everyone probably at face value was like, oh, he's the bad, like, villain guy because he's the guy in the big suit. Like, we got to see some progression from him in his story and his character, whereas, like you say, Vanessa was evil from the start, and it just became more apparent as the film went on of how evil she was.
100%.
It's these CEOs, man.
Yeah, the big thing I have to get off the gate straight away, because I said it while we were sat in the cinema. I whispered it to Jenna straight away because she heard me gasp.
Okay.
When we're in the Cord mansion.
Yes.
And we see the painting that her mother did.
Yes.
Did Ted Cord remind you of anyone? Like, off the top of your head, did you look at that and go, that is so-and-so? Because I did.
See, this is where I'm really bad, and I'm like, it felt familiar, but then I'm like, I'm no good at putting faces to names.
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and just picture in your mind Jason Sudeikis, or get a picture up with a full beard, not like he's in Ted Lasso with the mustache, where his normal full beard he has.
Okay,
He's googling.
I
Yeah,
am.
that that is who was in that painting.
Okay,
And would you like even more evidence to back that up?
okay, go on.
Since that, the director has said his dream casting for Ted Cord would be Jason Sudeikis.
Okay,
So I
so
think the director
it's
has
done that on
gone,
purpose.
yes, I want this actor, so I'm going to make it a lot easier to fit that actor in than anyone else.
Yeah, and also be like, hey, look, we already are showing that we want you. How
Yeah.
cool is it that we've in a world picked you
Yeah.
before we've picked you?
But this film, like, ignoring all of the fun Easter eggs, which we'll get into in a minute, 'cause there are a
Mhm.
lot, it hit what I've been actually saying for a little while about, yes, a certain amount of realism is needed in superhero content, but I
Mhm.
want it to be a bit more campy and colourful and fun.
Yeah,
And they hit that. They
they
really
did.
did.
They
The
they
comedy
nailed
hit
it.
in this.
The comedy hit. The visual style was a lot brighter and more fun. The I actually really enjoyed, for the sake of like, it was an origin film, but they did it slightly unique in the sense of like, it's the first time we're meeting the character, but it's not the first Blue Beetle. We've talked about that before. Like, we liked that
Yeah.
they were doing that,
And
but
there were
then
references to the previous
yeah,
Beatles.
and I enjoyed how you see it a lot in the origin stories. Like, they get their powers, and within like weeks, they're ripped, can fight like no other. Like, it's like they're suddenly just like this incredible athlete and fighter. And it's like,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed how even only right at the end did he actually start to figure out how to fight somewhat, and even then he was still sloppy. And it's like they
Yeah.
kept it real, as in like they knew they had this suit, and we talked about how the Scarab Beetle was like sentient, and it's all about protecting its host. It's like they showed early on, like, that knows how to fight. It's just like, if it started fighting, it's like, okay, we know they didn't need to make it so he could fight straight away. And I think that
Yeah,
added
100%.
to it, and added to the funness of like him freaking out all the time and
But
all that.
another really cool part that I noticed is throughout the entire film, we hear a lot about how the Scarab has got to align himself with his host.
Yes.
Yeah. And you actually can see that throughout the film.
Yes.
So at the very beginning, like the first thing the Scarab picks up on is obviously Jaime's name. And it goes, "Hello, Jaime," and then they take
Mm-hmm.
off. Then after one instance, he wakes up and he knows the Scarab's name,
Yes.
which shows a little bit of that intertwining.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the family is under attack and he comes back to save them,
Mm-hmm.
we know the Scarab's only supposed to care about the host, but the Scarab's telling him, "Jaime, your family,"
Yeah.
because the Scarab knows that's what my host cares about. We're one and the same, or becoming one and the same,
Yeah.
so I care as well. And then we get the big crescendo of that when, after they fully synchronized, the Scarab starts speaking in Spanish to him.
Yes, I love that.
And then obviously you get the big moment at the very end of, not "I'm not a killer" when the Scarab tries to kill someone. Jaime tries to kill someone and the Scarab
Yeah.
stops him and goes, "We're not killers."
Yeah.
Just to bring that whole very simple arc that doesn't
Mm.
need to be overcomplicated full circle, but you can see it throughout the entire film, just them becoming more and more connected, which adds to Jaime becoming more competent throughout the film as
Yes.
well.
It
Because
was.
if you can see ways they're
Mm.
aligning, it makes sense that they're also becoming more
Oh,
effective.
yeah. It's like they gave themselves like the perfect origin storytelling tool of like,
100%.
okay, we're gonna have it so like these two things have to synchronize, and it's gonna take time, because obviously with anything like that, it isn't gonna just instantly, you're gonna be like synchronized with something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not play it into the story? And like you say, all those points which it was showing us, like they're getting more and more synced to the point where like it speaks Spanish to him, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Also the bit right at the end where also like the Scarab has humor which I
Yeah.
loved. And then right at the end, when he's kissing Jenny, and he goes, "Your blood is moving to your lower regions,"
Yeah.
and it's like everyone instantly knows what's going on,
Yeah.
and it's stuff like that where like obviously they showed they're getting more and more connected, and they start having this like humor and a relationship, even just him and the Scarab.
Yeah. And I think that is what we've always said we love about, I mean, all of our nerd media is
Mm.
interactions between characters, and they were so rich in this film.
Well,
Every interaction it felt like it was actually two people interacting, not two actors reading their lines from a script, which
yeah,
sometimes can happen. Um,
it gave me, and I know we've said this, I think the other week, and we're expecting people to go, "Oh, this is just Iron Man, but DC." Try not compare, but at the same time compare. Like it was like watching Iron Man 1 with Tony Stark and Jarvis, and like everyone was like, "Oh my god, this AI is cool, it's so fun."
yeah.
It's like it's that same vibe again of like
It
two
managed to
things.
recapture that lightning in a bottle of
Mm,
Iron Man 1.
yes.
Um, and they did a brilliant job of not fucking up by connecting it to pre-existing lore.
Yes.
Yes, we got references to Superman and Batman and other superheroes. No names, no faces,
Yeah, it was
no
just
no acknowledgement of any events that tie it to a
yeah.
particular universe. So they don't really have to change anything.
Yeah. I think that was something I came out of, and I was like, I'm so glad they didn't fuck this film by shoving like Wonder Woman in at the end. And like
Exactly.
I was trying to explain it to my girlfriend because she was getting a bit confused when I was saying like they haven't tied it in. She's like, but they talked about Batman and Superman. Obviously, explaining that like, yeah, because they've not like shown us Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck or Gal Gadot, like that's meaning it's like it's not connected. There is no
Yeah,
canon like hard connection to that universe, which I think has led to why James Gunn was like, he has been able to say this was the first DCU character, not the first DCU film, just because it wasn't done under him. And it's like, but they were smart and they haven't connected it.
100%.
Them saying like you say, Superman in Minneapolis, not Minneapolis, Metropolis. Blah, blah, blah. My brain's
Metropolis.
Metropolis. God, my brain. Then you had, and they mentioned Flash in Central City
Yeah,
and Batman in Gotham, didn't they?
yeah.
And it's
Well, I
like,
mean, he went to the University of Gotham.
oh
So when he
yes,
comes out to talk to his father in their front garden on the night before it all goes wrong, so after
mm.
he's just been fired, he actually goes out there and he's wearing a University of Gotham hoodie.
I didn't quite pick up on that, but
Yeah,
okay,
so he was wearing a University of Gotham hoodie or a Gotham Law hoodie.
right.
So that was clearly where he'd been studying at university before he came back.
So it's like, even though they've mentioned those things, like that works perfectly for the DCU coming and allows
100%.
James Gunn to just be like, yeah, Superman is in that place and exists, and whether we meet those characters anytime soon, like it's just there open. I love the his uncle when he mentions Batman and goes, Batman's a fascist.
Which
Just like,
in the trailer I thought was quite weird, but in the context of the film
yeah.
of the character, but also what they're discussing at the time and about how he was just complimenting Blue Beetle on how he didn't take himself too seriously and knew how to have humor with it. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, yeah, Batman. When he takes Batman's face, he's just straight faced. He just punches people. He doesn't have any fun.
Yeah.
But also more to like what I was looking for from superhero films. They've set themselves up perfectly here. If you can find a way to have the Bug in live action and people don't go, that's dumb as shit, you can do
Yes.
anything done in comic books.
That's a good point when the bug shit, and I was just like, this is sick. And then it crashed,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh well, there goes their way out. And then it's like, nope, tank mode. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is, and the way
If
that like
you
it was practical as well. Like they
yeah,
built out this shit. It wasn't just them and some green screen with a few props around. Like no, the whole thing felt like there, physical and real.
yeah. If you can make the Bug work in live action, you can make the Rogues in their ridiculous outfits and their ridiculous guns work. You can make Condiment King work. If you can make the Bug work, you can absolutely make Condiment King like the first battle of a film
Mm-hmm.
to like establish where someone is in their timeline 100%.
I think realistically, like this gives us a real like the fact that James Gunn has shown he's obviously voiced his love for this and what they've made before this was even out. I think this shows like this is quite clearly going to be like insight into what the DCU is going to be like.
Yeah, 100%.
And the vibe that James Gunn wants to go for.
It was so good. I mean, it even hit the emotional punches as well with the way his father passed and the way she talks about her father. It all hit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a surprise. The second you get told that his father had a heart attack while he was away at university, we all knew he wasn't making it out of the film.
Yeah, there was going to be something was going to happen at some point.
Exactly. But they did it really, really well. Like,
yeah,
like the running joke's always been you can't be a superhero if both your parents are alive.
This is true.
Like, that's like rule number one. If you want to be a superhero, you've got to sacrifice at least one of your parents.
I also love how they kind of hit the cultural points as well. Like, even though it was this fantasy city and there's like, but it hit the real, like, it, everyone could relate to the fact of like, there's this big corporation taking over, and it's the ones that are like the Mexicans and the lesser represented people are the ones getting screwed over and losing their areas where they live, and housing prices going up, and it's making it harder. Like, it hit those relatable points, even though there was all this crazy shit going on at the same time.
It's exactly what the big plus from Black Panther was. When you let culture influence and direct culture, you will get a faithful adaptation that feels real and fairly represents people. They've done the same thing again. They've got a Mexican and Hispanic cast and crew and directors, and they've let them tell the story. And once again, it works.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. Let the people who've experienced that life, that story, tell that story, and it will be told properly.
And it's that thing again, which we keep saying, we don't want world-ending scenarios. Like, obviously, this was an origin. It wasn't probably we weren't expecting like a world ending, but like they kept it very real, very cool, like to the culture and at home. But still hinted at like there are these mega corporations fucking the world up, and like there is a bigger thing going on, but like it kept it to his issues and where he was from.
100%.
And it paid out.
I think it actually beat my expectations. I was
Yeah,
hoping
I
for it
would
to be
say
a fun film that got to show off a character that's really cool that not a lot of people know of, and it's definitely done better than that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I was expecting it to be good, but like they just nailed it with everything, and it felt everything that I expected to do well. They did better and kind of went further than what I expected.
100%. The only thing that people need to remember is people were trying to trash the box office after 2 days. They were trying to say this film was a flop after 2 days. This film, compared to superhero films now, was on a very small budget. The reported budget is 104 million.
Yep.
It had no marketing because, unlike some other projects, this the strike started before they recorded any marketing. So it's not like other things where they could just rerun old interviews that had already been recorded and just put the mark on it like this was recorded before the strike. They had nothing.
Yeah, the only
this
things.
Was all fans.
Yeah, the only things that were out there were from months ago, and it was only James Gunn because he was the only one who'd seen it.
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah.
And I think it's crossed 50 million today. Go out and watch it.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed early MCU because it was a character that you could care about, with side characters you could care about, with a story that was nice, and you want a bit of a comedy, not a comedy. You want to be able to laugh at moments. You want to be able to feel things at moments. You want some cool action. It is very, very good. And I look forward to seeing all these characters again.
Oh yeah, same. Like I think as well, like if you were disappointed or like lost faith in DC by the end of the DCEU, like this is the film that is, although it's not technically DCU because it's starting with Superman, this is a preview to the DCU, and watch it, and it'll get you excited for what James Gunn's going to do.
100%. I think it gives a very likely taste of what can be expected.
And I'm excited. It very much obviously settled for a second one, and I'm excited to see that be under the DCU arc, and then for these characters to then hopefully be brought into that world as well.
The huge thing to remember is obviously it got teased at the end that Ted Cord isn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
We know the DCU is working on a Booster Gold show. Booster Gold and Ted Cord are best friends.
Yep.
It's all there. You've got Booster Gold, you've got Ted Cord mentoring Jaime as the Blue Beetle. That right there is a lovely little core of characters that can occasionally interact with your big heroes, but can also be a completely separate side shoot that people can just watch and adore because them three are built to have really nice and fun and great interactions.
Yeah. It's James Gunn. Like, I definitely think he saw this while he was in the process of figuring it out, and he's like, "Oh, they've left this for like Ted Cord to come. Okay, I'm doing Booster Gold. We're bringing this in. This is mine now. Screw any cameos you wanted to do. That's not happening. Like, this is all me. And do you know what? I'm so ready for the uncle to come back in the second one as like his guy in the chair with all the like cool gadgets, coming up with like weird weapons and stuff for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for more of that.